Welcome to cost-effective research training for California young associates or law students. Here we are, and let's talk about cost effectiveness and what that means when we are in a law firm environment and not a school ID. So, uh, when it comes to what it means to be cost effective, you obviously want to be really good at using Lexis. I want you to remember that time is money in the firm. So if you can do something faster, and more efficiently, that's often more cost effective than taking a longer route to do something because you think it might be the cheaper way. So we always want to balance time with what you're doing on Lexis. Coming to these trainings, knowing all the recent features and tips that we can share with you to make you a better, more efficient researcher is always the way to go. You want to be able to ask your employer questions about the topic so you have a strong foundation to begin your research. They may not think to tell you certain things like, is there a key case that you know I should use? Do you happen to know if there's a statute on point? Any of these small questions that you can ask will help you with a starting point for your research. So you don't always have to start at the beginning with secondary sources when there's actually something better out there you can start with. So make sure you really understand your problem well. And this is a good time to come into AI and check it out on AI with the understanding of the problem you have to gather as much information. So when you actually go into legal research, you have more better search terms and things like that you can create. Okay, understanding your subscription plan at your firm is important. So we're going to go into that now and how your employer manages their online legal research for their clients. So that could be a separate thing. So subscription plans, almost everybody who has a Lexis at their firms or courthouses or things have a subscription plan where Lexis is a flat rate, okay? That means they pay one flat fee and they can use as much as they want. And if they choose not to use, they still pay that one flat fee. That fee is based on the number of attorneys that have access to Lexis and the databases that they want access to. Then a firm rep, someone like me, and the leaders at the firm will decide upon the databases and the number of attorneys that need it and come up with that flat rate that they pay every month. Now, that being said, we do send out a invoice every month to the firm that shows the different types of research done and to which clients the research was done for. That way, the firm knows that if they choose to bill back a client the research that they did for that client, that is on the firm to choose to do. And we make that easier by providing the invoice. We call that the bill back, or the firms call that the bill back. That's how they're recouping fees for Lexis, is actually pushing them onto their clients. Although when it comes to courts and government agencies and things, and even law firms now, you will see that they just include research in their overhead prices. They don't send those on to the clients. And that's obviously a really nice environment to work on, because in that environment, it's just all about your time and you're not worried about doing one search versus another for cost saving purposes for the client's pockets. When you're on a school ID, everything's in plan. So everything that you've been doing as law students looks exactly like when documents are in plan and you're in a work environment. But in a work environment, when something is out of plan, it'll be really obvious to you. First of all, there'll be new buttons on your screen that you've never seen before that says get it now. And it'll even tell you the price on what that particular document will cost if you choose to get it now. You have the option to be able to put things into a folder before you actually open them. So you can go ask somebody at the firm if it's okay for you to open that document. So we allow you to put it in a folder, but when you actually go to open that document for the very first time, then you will incur that fee. And there are lots of times Lexis gives you to make sure you understand that you're about to incur a fee. Okay, so they're going to say, are you sure? We are really going to charge you. And then you click it again and you click get it now and you get it, and it will then be an added charge. So if you see these type of things, just ask, right? They probably have another way of doing things. That's why that thing is out of plan. So when you ask, maybe they tell you, hey, we actually have that in print, so go get it from there. This is just another screen of what things look like when you're actually in a table of contents and you do not have access to that particular source that you're looking at, which could happen. That particular source is out of plan, so the firm probably has another way for you to access similar information. Okay, I know the screen looks crazy, but this is what an invoice looks like. All the numbers in blue are client IDs. That's what the firm assigns the client. That's not Lexis. The firm chooses a client ID for each client, and then they type that client ID number in when they go to do particular research on Lexis. Now, these crazy numbers are just different ways the firm can choose to bill back clients for Lexis. One includes any discounts the firm is getting, and other fees are just the flat rate with no discounts applied, and the firm can make a choice as to how they want to bill back clients. Okay, so we're going to go into Lexis now and take a look at how this works. And I'm going to quickly show you a button that a lot of people don't realize is here, called the client ID button. And this is where you can come on in and set the client ID number. You can even do this if you're in a school environment. And let's say you want to keep everything that you do for law review kind of separate in one place, sort of like its own platform, then that's how you can do that and assign things to a client ID. It makes it a little bit easier. But usually in law schools, we just leave this button alone. However, in the firms, you have to open, this screen will pop up if you fail to click it to ask you to put in that client ID. So be ready. When you guys go to firms this summer and you're working, you're either going to be told to enter in a certain client ID number for what you're working on, or the firm may actually have a number that is made for educational use for you to just kind of play on, and it's not actually assigned to a client. So lots of different ways the firm deals with their young associates, new associates, summer associates on certain research things. So make sure you clarify that with them. Okay, so we're going to go in and just run a very easy search right now. I'm going to pull something up. And we're going to take a look at these terms. It's a really good idea to search something very broadly the first time you go to search it. That is always a great first search on Lexis, to just do it broad, because from that point on, you can just filter as much as you'd like, and that is included in the cost of a search. So, okay. So this is a broad search. I'm just putting in the claim of action, and Lexis is going to run it, and we're going to look for everything we have. So you can see Lexis ran it in natural language. I do have the choice to run it in terms and connectors, but be careful, because in the firms, we actually see an invoice for running a search. So that was actually a cha-ching on the invoice, and you will see that. So searches cost, but then we can go to different databases and open up documents here. All primary law, it's no cost to the client. It's no invoice charge. So I can go to any of these cases right now, or I can move on to statutes, open up statutes. Any primary law will not show up on the invoice. So I just ran one search and I can open up all of these cases. Okay, I'm going to run this again. Whew, we have a search here and we have our different databases. Okay, secondary materials. Now that will show up on the invoice. So when it comes to secondary materials, you want to be judicious. One of the best ways that you can be judicious is by narrowing down and seeing exactly what it is that you need. So I'm going to go to treatises and guides. And for this, we're going to stick to the jurisdiction, California. Now you can see when it comes to California, we have a ton of resources for this particular topic, 511, but you're not going to see that many in a different jurisdiction. We just happen to have a lot of resources for the state of California. For my students that live in Hawaii, or you just happen to have a problem outside of California one time, then I want you to know that non-jurisdictional is your button. But for those of us in California going to work at firms, a lot of times smaller law firms that just do state law may not actually pay for some of the resources that are considered non-jurisdictional. So things like employee rights and litigation pleading in practice is a non-jurisdictional source that may not be in a California plan. So we actually have the ability in the firms, and I am not on a firm ID right now, to be able to say in plan, and that would be a filter. So we can literally filter out of plan resources. I'm going back up to the top. I'm going to close non-jurisdictional. We are just in California resources right now. Everything I've done so far is just looking around in secondary materials. It is still included in the one search until now. I want to go into this document. I will be paying for this document. So you'll see a cha-ching because it is not primary law, it is secondary law. But when I open up one document, that is cheaper than when I open up many documents. So a search is actually more expensive than me coming in and opening up one document. Also, if I come in from here and choose to open up any of these cases are primary law, they're not going to show up on the invoice. But if I decide I need to see another page in this book, you're going to see a get a document charge because I am opening up another page. So just so you know, get a document is a little bit cheaper. But again, it is a lot cheaper for you to go find other pages in this book using the table of contents that look helpful for you. We can actually view the whole table of contents here. It's a lot cheaper for me to dive down and find a different place to open than it is for me to run a search in this secondary source for what I'm looking for. So if I'm saying bystander liability, NIED, then that is running a search in the secondary source. And we got a little bit bigger of a cha-ching than when we open up one document. Okay. I'm going to come back to the beginning. I think you guys are understanding that, right? So I'm going to go in. What happens when I want to type 100 US 100? Primary law, no cost to the client, not on the invoice, right? Now I come on down. I start researching. I want to pull a Shepherd's report. Shepherd's reports are actually not billed to the client either. Like primary law, they are considered no cost to the client. So I can come on into my Shepherd's report, no problem. I've got a bunch of cases here that Lexis is suggesting that are citing Hurt v. Hollingsworth based on the head note I selected. I can open up any of these. They are primary law. So again, a very easy way to do research on Lexis is to use these citing decisions to find more cases that are citing that headlining case. So along with that, let's go back to our search. And I'm going to run negligent infliction of emotional distress right now. And you're going to see my Ravel view. So here I am in case law, but oops, first we got to narrow down to the court. So I want to be as specific as possible. You guys know in California that if I open this up, we can actually say we want a certain district. So if you know you're coming from a certain district, you might want California Supreme Court, and maybe we want the 6th district, right? And now I'm ready to go in and look at my Ravel view. So now it's telling me these are the leading cases in California, the leading big cases. So I'm okay, there's a Mullen case I might want to take a look at. Dillon v. Legg, okay, looks like there's some big California Supreme Court cases here. Thing v. Lechuza, looks like a lot of these new cases, all these line up here are citing Thing v. Lechuza. So I'm definitely going to want to check that out. Here's a case that has a green line to Thing v. Lechuza. That means it's following the law. And it came out in 2024. You can see that right here when I hover. So that is great. That means that this new case is still citing Thing v. Lechuza. I'm going to come into Thing v. Lechuza, and you're going to see now that if everything in this Shepherd's report, all these 894 cases, I can go into, and they're citing that leading case. So that's a wonderful way to do research in the firms, is to take advantage of Shepherds. We do have Shepherds training. If you want an extra training on just Shepherdizing, I have an excellent one. Just let me know. Okay, we're going to go back to the main screen. Let's talk about California now. California resources are located here under state, okay? all pages are the same. So my Hawaii students, they're going to come into Hawaii. They'll see everything for that state. All right. So California, we come on in. But if I want specific things from California, I will definitely use this page. So I'm going to close this because I don't use it for case law. I do use it to come to the Deering's Code. Now, cool thing, Deering's Code, California Code Book, primary law, everything that I do here is free, with one exception, running the search, okay? Yes, it is still a search. When you click this button and it looks like a magnifying glass, that is an indicator to you that, cha-ching, you are running a search. But at least we're running a search in a smaller database, okay? So that is helpful to know. And I can also go through manually. This is free. But remember, time is money. If it's going to take you forever to go through the family code to find the section that you need, then that is not time efficient anymore, right? It takes you too long. It would be cheaper to just run the search. So you have an option there. But remember, when I drill down and I finally get to something in blue, then that is actually opening up a document, no cost to the client. We are talking about a statute. Okay, so that was how the Deering's Code works. Don't forget, court rules are here. Municipal codes are here. Your California Constitution is here. And below that, I have all my regulations as well. So my California regulations and all my administrative materials. Now, this really does depend on your state. I think there's a lot of administrative materials that are missing from some state pages like Hawaii. But when it comes to California, we have so many agencies listed here, and you can get to those decisions here. So that is on your California page. Likewise, usually you can go on out to that agency page and find what you're looking for through their website. But my favorite piece, especially for California law, is knowing that you can get to all California treatises by coming right in through secondary materials here, okay? Now, remember, secondary materials is going to show up on the invoice, but it's a lot cheaper for me to go in and actually open up a source here, like let's find I have one. All right, California drunk driving law. This will work. Okay, so I come on in and I can come in and see when I pop in like this to a blue source on a secondary source, California drunk driving law. This means that I am paying a get a doc fee, but that's a lot cheaper than running a search in the secondary source. So get a doc fees, remember, are cheaper. You see that little magnifying glass, you know you're running a search versus opening up a page in the book, okay? Now let's go back to this page because I really want you guys to focus in on some of these excellent resources for California. We've gone ahead and actually put the main resources that most people use for secondary sources right here on the page, like this. Top secondary sources. California Forms of Pleading and Practice is your Bible, all things California law. You need to remember the name of this resource if you love Lexis and you're doing California law on Lexis, because it's pretty much going to answer every California state law question. It does have a slightly different table of contents page than other sources because it's organized by alphabetical order. So this actually is a book that I tend to research using the table of contents. Yes, it's running a search, but because things can be a little bit harder to research in this book, I usually go ahead and do that. Now, remember, we're only talking about costs to the client. Just because it shows up on the invoice does not mean that your firm is going to pass every cost on to the client. So I do want you to do what is time efficient because the firm will know when it chooses to pass things on to the client, okay? Don't stress too much. They're happy to talk to you about this and let you know that a lot of the expenses that you have through Lexis will still be written off, okay? So that's something for you to talk about with them. Now, I am almost done. On this California page, it's an easy place for you to find forms for the state of California when you need them. And then at the bottom, you have your news databases here as well. All right, so let's go back to the beginning and I'm going to show you a couple things. You know you need California Forms of Pleading and Practice. We can just start typing it in. California Forms of Pleading and Practice. So that's a really easy way. Just, I know this is what I need. I'm going to come on in. I know I'm in a very good secondary source when I start my research here. So I just bypassed everything by using that. In the firms, you're really going to use your history a lot. These are my AI conversations. These are my searches I've run on Lexis Research, documents I've pulled. So remember, we went into Thing v. Lechuza, Hurt v. Hollingsworth, and the Shepherd's reports. Of course, I can view all from here and we can easily pull things up. Now, your searches in your history stay for 90 days. I highly recommend in the firms to access documents through your history because they will not show up on the invoice as long as they are still in the history and you're accessing from here, okay? So that's a little bit different than you have more time when you put things in folders. You can access them for up to a year. So that is another benefit. Foldering certain items when you need them, but the history, just know as long as it's in the history, is free to you. There's one exception, and that's searches you run. You get 24 hours. And the reason for that is when I run this search in a day, there's potentially new information that could be popping up. And so to get that new information, we're going to see that search charge again in 24 hours. Documents, however, you're still getting that same document. So that is why documents in your history remain free, no cost to the client. All right. Thank you guys so much for your time. Remember, I can do Shepherd's training to send that to you when you need it.